Welcome to Comics Bazaar, the channel of comics commentary and arcana. This video features X Factor number 76, cover dated March 1992. The cover is by Larry Stroman, inked by Milgrom. It's very eye-catching, very striking, featuring this huge figure of Rahne. Great foreshortening on this as well, and use of perspective and speed lines. Wolfsbane goes mad. Let's open this one up to the splash page. So this picks up from events at the conclusion of Incredible Hulk number 391. This is part of a crossover between Peter David's Hulk and Peter David's X Factor. Title of this particular story is Excommunication. Credits down here. Written by Peter David, guest pencil by Tom Raney and Kevin West. So roughly half the comic is by Raney and the other half, a little more than half, by Kevin West. Inked by Al Milgrom, lettered by Michael Heisler, and coloured by Glynis Oliver. So yes, towards the end of Incredible Hulk 391, Rahne was clawing at the Hulk's back, and basically he picked her up and flung her away, knocked miles away from the scene. So that's how we pick up. So she's unconscious in the desert of Trans Sabal. And what's going to happen, except that she is found. And interesting art here, kind of showing her hallucination of Richter, because she and Richter had a relationship that goes back to their time in the New Mutants. And so she thinks it's him, and she's struggling to get up. But it turns out to be these natives of Trans Sabal, a brother and sister. And the brother is the dominant one, and his sister is more sympathetic regarding Rahne. She says, oh Jalel, let's get out of here. This isn't natural. Well, first of all, she's frightened, and he continues and says, no, we didn't stumble on this by accident. Everything is as the fanatic would will it. And if we tried to forget what we have found, then we would be ignoring his will. So this guy is a religious fanatic. And this is the symbol of the Farnock's strange religion, which we don't get too many details on, but he's like the head of that religion. And anyway, the brother prevails, so they pick up Rahne, put her in the back of the pickup truck, and they drive off in the desert, and they're making their way to Jaffan, which is the capital of Trans Sabal, and they're going to keep the creature prisoner until the Farnock tells us what to do, says the guy. And then we pick up with X Factor. So again, this is from the end of Incredible Hulk 391. There was a standoff between Havoc and the Incredible Hulk. Havoc was absorbing the Incredible Hulk's power because of some ability that he had to do with gamma rays, and to do with the way that he derives his own plasma blasts from the sun. And that was all explained in Incredible Hulk 391. In any case, there was a massive explosion, and when the dust settled, X Factor couldn't find Havoc and couldn't find the Hulk either. So they're there clearing rubble away, and also they're worried about Rahne as well and where she is. Guido here saying, you know, where the heck is Alex? So some nice work in those panels by Tom Raney. Another nice page from him as well. Lorna here worried about Havoc, and then starts to think. No answer on the headset. The only thing I can think of is that the force of the explosion blew the Hulk and Alex in opposite directions, which means he could be anywhere. And Multiple Man says, we know which way Rahne went, though. I saw the Hulk toss her that way. So the decision now is Polaris's. She is team leader in the absence of Havoc. But there's a complication, which is that there is some fighting going on in the near distance. Quicksilver puts it together. The Pantheon's attacking again. That was fast. And Guido says, sounds like we're needed in more than one place, considering that we're supposed to be fighting on the side of the government forces, and it sounds like the government forces are getting clobbered. So we have Ulysses here up against these mandroids that were supplied by S.H.I.E.L.D. and the US government, and X Factor is supposed to be fighting on the side of the Farnock. So let's continue and see what decision Lorna makes. So this is her decision here, and this is a page by Kevin West, a couple of pages by him. Jamie Guido, take out as many of the foot troops as you can. Leave the thanks to me, she says. And meanwhile, Quicksilver is heading off in search of Rahne. And he says, I dislike leaving in the middle of a battle, but Lorna was right. No one can retrieve Rahne as quickly as I. It's so difficult being the best suited to handle any task at hand. Oh, the supreme responsibility of being so blasted versatile. So Quicksilver, always arrogant, but humorously so. And now we do pick up with Rahne, and she's been tied up, so she's coming to here. And the brother and sister are arguing over what to do with her. And the brother asserts his dominance. Quiet, I'm in charge here, he says. And then he introduces himself to Rahne. I'm Jalel, the head of the household. This is my sister Sanda, and you are ours until such time as Farnock Dan himself has had a chance to see you and decide what to do with you. So Rahne explains, well, that's perfect because I'm here fighting for your beloved Farnock Dan. So if you just cut me loose, I'd get on about my business. And so she was introduced to the Farnock in, if memory serves, Incredible Hulk 391. And here we have the brother arguing, saying, oh no, you'll stay here until you can be contacted. For all I know, you could be one of the beasts, the liberators who've turned our country into a battleground. And Rahne insists, get your Farnock on the phone. So there's a fair bit of dialogue here where the brother says that's not exactly possible since the liberators managed to destroy phone lines all over Trans Sabal. Of course, if you're one of them, you'd already know that. And Rahne says, this is ridiculous. I can't reason with your brother if you'd untie me. And then he says, she's merely a female and has nothing to do with this. So Rahne responds, oh, I can see we're going to get on just fine. You think men are God's gift to the world and women are window dressing? Where'd you come by that attitude, I wonder? Farnock Dan, perhaps, because he was revealed to be a little bit of a creepy guy in previous parts of the crossover when it came to women. But this guy's enthralled by the Farnock. He's a true believer. You know nothing of God or our culture, he says, and you certainly know nothing of Farnock Dan. He's God's anointed one rather. He loves us and protects us. He's the voice of God on earth. And I like this little transition here where we shift from the guy's portrait to him in real life. And there he says, the wine has been prepared. So God's voice on earth indeed. Specifically to your specifications, Farnock. Okay, so that is an implication that he's spiked the wine, and in he comes to visit Val Cooper that he's taken a fancy to, and he offers her a drink. So then we pick up again with the battle going on out in the desert. We have Hector here tackling Multiple Man. Hector boasting, I don't know what your game is and it won't help you. I've got the strength of 10 men. So of course it's ironic that he's up against Multiple Man who can create dupes of himself up to and beyond the number of 10. But in any case, Hector here reaching out for his, as Guido comically calls it, glow stick. I don't think you'll be needing that glow stick of yours, Chuckles. Not where you're going. So Guido winding up there for a massive punch. Then we turn the page and we get a big anchor image. This is Kevin West on the art of Ulysses and Atalanta and Ajax coming to the rescue of Hector. So Ajax punches Guido, and then we get Hector here racing to take on Multiple Man. But he says, I have the sword turned down to a lower setting that'll just knock him cold. But of course, that just the impact creates a couple of dupes. So that's the problem, taking on Multiple Man. Meanwhile, Atalanta targets Polaris here, and she thinks to herself, they seem to be carrying some sort of plasma-based weapons, similar to Alex's blast, but contained within tight fields. So I should easily be able to deflect these arrows with magnetic waves. Okay, so let's see how that turns out. Well, she manages to slow some of the arrows down a bit, but then they just go around her magnetic powers and cut her in the side and shoulder. So Atalanta says, not bad, Greeny Locks. You managed to knock him off course a bit. but my little arrows have lives of their own. And then we're back to Tom Raney's art. So Quicksilver is racing in search of Rahne. And we've got his first person dialogue there where he says, well, she's nowhere in the vicinity outside the town, which means either she landed in the town or outside and someone brought her to it. So he's going to have to go into Japan, and he says, I certainly hope she's there, otherwise I'm going to start running out of options. But he's being followed by Prometheus in one of the Pantheon's armoured vehicles, and Prometheus calls in to Ulysses and tells him, just thought you'd want to know that the spotters were correct. The mutant Quicksilver is heading for the city of Japan. He's been streaking around too much for me to engage him so far, but once he gets into the confines of the city, he'll have less maneuverability. I should be able to take him there. Okay, so the plot is thickening. Let's continue with the story, if I can get past this page. Then we're back with Rahne as she's tied up by the brother and sister. And the brother there, you see, what's interesting here is Peter David is constructing these people from the Arabian Peninsula, but he is making them be, enthrall, some of them anyway, to the tyrant Farnok who's the head of their religion. But the religion isn't Islam, it's something else. And you can see here that they drink alcohol, they're drinking wine. So it's an interesting little kind of allegory, but he's not going so on the nose as to represent these characters as Muslims. So the guy is ranting there with the wine. He says, you come into this country despoiling our culture, trying to impose your ideas on us. You know nothing of us, and yet you look down your nose at us. And Rahne says to him in response, and just who is looking down whose nose at the moment, may I ask? Then she's thinking about how she could transform into her wolfen self, but the problem is that she's having difficulty controlling herself when she's in her full wolfen form. Besides, my own claws should have me loose in a couple more minutes. Meantime, I'm getting some valuable insight into what makes these people tick. So we get a lot of speech balloons here in the dialogue between the brother and Rahne, where he continues about her appearance, meaning that she's some demon from the pits. And then she retorts and says, I'll have you know, I'm a God-fearing Christian. And he responds, well, that's something that Farnok Dan would be able to tell for sure. And even if you were what you say, well, here's proof of our superiority. Where do you go to worship your pathetic little Judo-Christian God? And Rahne replies, why, to church every Sunday, or at the least, when I'm not a prisoner of fools like ye. And the brother responds, church, but you see, our God, we worship him anywhere we choose. Our God is everywhere, in the ground, in the air, in the buildings. But your God is so wretched that he has to hide in old buildings, so crippled that you must go to him because he cannot go to you. And Rahne responds, like she was brought up by a puritanical preacher, that's ridiculous, our God is everywhere too. You're just distorting things. The guy says, no more so than you distort things about us. No respect for our culture or beliefs. And Rahne retorts, you mean beliefs such as that women are second-rate citizens? So he starts laughing. He says, your culture believes the same thing. We're just honest about it. You hypocrites claim equality, and yet American women still complain of unequal treatment. At least our women aren't complaining. And Rahne responds, they wouldn't dare. And that's the difference. So interesting kind of dialogue there between the fanatic and Rahne, and the backstory of Rahne being brought up by that puritanical preacher. She has some theological knowledge. She is a Christian, and also, of course, she is very much against the guy's attitude that women should be second-rate citizens. But he retorts with a little dig of his own in terms of American society and culture. So just curious, the debate, the dialogue that Peter David is setting up there, and kind of leaving the reader to make up their own minds, which is fair enough. Now, this page is another one by Tom Raney, this page here by Kevin West, and Quicksilver arrives, and he's calling out for Rahne, and with her enhanced hearing, she hears him calling her So she knows it's time to make a move. So she gets up from the chair, because she's loosed the binds around her legs, and aims for the window, jumps out of it. And just at the moment that Quicksilver spies her, Prometheus gets in the way and sends out these jets of oil, presumably, which causes Quicksilver to fall. And then the scene switches back to the battle in the desert, and Ulysses there with his energy sword, and he's swinging it around to take on Madrox, while Ajax picks up a big tank in order to take on Guido. But Guido, when he's hit by the tank at the side, he's leaping away from it, but hit somewhat. I mean, that's exactly what he needs in order to power up. Oh good, that was kinetic energy. I absorbed that, and then I release it. So he's winding up there for a punch. Let's see how this goes. So he punches Ajax, and Ajax falls on top of Atalanta, who he has an obsession with, and just at the point that Atalanta fired another couple of arrows at Lorna, but Lorna by this point has figured out how to stop those arrows. She says they're held together with magnetic bonding, and that means that whatever control you exert over them, I exert more. So she sends them after Atalanta, and just at this particular moment, the two actions come together. Atalanta fleeing from her own arrows and smashed to the ground by Ajax. So of course he's distraught, picks her up, and he runs right through the armored vehicles on his own team, which means that Ulysses makes a decision. Perfect. Pull us back, Hector. Why? Demands Hector. Look around you. Ajax plowed through half our armament because it was between him and our base camp. He and his fixation on Atalanta have left our troops in disarray. We have to fall back until we can get our act together. Now do it. So this is an opportunity for X Factor also to get themselves in order once again. And then the scene switches back to Japan and Prometheus firing at Quicksilver. So Quicksilver can't come to Rane's aid. So she's tied up still to the chair, her hands behind her back, and the guy is coming towards her with a knife out, and his own sister uses the wine bottle to knock him to the ground, and she picks up the knife. And what's she going to do? Is she going to finish Rane herself? No, she releases Rane from the ropes, and Rane says to her, you didn't have to do that. I was almost free, and your brother will be sorely angry. And the woman says he'll get over it. We'll see how that turns out as I continue with the story. So we're coming to the end. Rane running towards Quicksilver to give him some assistance, and then she hears a scream behind her. And this idiot, this clown, has stabbed his own sister in the heart. And he's there all remorseful about it immediately afterwards, saying he didn't mean to. You got me so angry, Sanda. You know how I get when you get me angry. But look who's super angry. It's Rane. And she was thinking earlier, remember, when she was tied to the chair, it would be easy to turn into her full wolfen form and just burst the ropes with her wolfen strength. But she worried that she's been observing that when she transforms into her full wolfen self, she loses her humanity. And this is what happens now. So she goes full on beast mode. And this is the image that we have on the cover, Larry Stroman's interpretation of it. So let's see what she does to the guy. Remember, this is 1992, Marvel superhero comics, superheroes don't kill. Turn the page. She is going absolutely feral on the guy. He's begging her for his life, and she drags him into the house. And just at this point, Quicksilver arrives. He tells Rane, come along. There's no purpose in playing target for that rolling fortress that Prometheus is driving. So he calls out to Rane. She emerges from the house. Who's the dead girl on the sidewalk? What happened in that house? That scream? Asks Quicksilver. And Rane kind of goes a little bit more towards her human form, and she begs Pietro, just get me out of here now. So he says, as you wish, and he's baffled. Do you want to tell me what happened? He asks her. Not what happened, what will happen. She says, oh God, Pietro, I'm going to burn. I just know it, forever and ever and ever, because she's murdered the guy, and thou shalt not kill. So an intriguing conclusion to this issue, and really developing more problems and complications for Rahne in terms of her interesting characterization under Peter David's pen in the X Factor run. Much more interesting than she ever was in New Mutants. And so he's doing a very good job on her in the title. So letters here, everybody delighted with the work on the all new, all different X Factor by Peter David and Larry Stroman on art. We also get a promise that the developing triangle among Rahne, Lorna and Alex is not going to be dealt with lightly. Yes, a lot of things happen to Rahne and Alex in Genosha, and we're going to learn about it in the months to come. We also have a statement of ownership here, and you can see the sales numbers on X Factor with the total print numbers. The average in the previous 12 months, 357,000. Actual number of copies of single issue nearest to filing date, 484,000. So sales are going up on X Factor in this era, along with all the other X titles. So I do hope that you enjoyed this review and commentary on X Factor number 76. It's sandwiched in there in the middle of the crossover with the Incredible Hulk, War and Pieces, and will be resolved in issue 392 of Incredible Hulk. So do stay tuned for my review of that particular comic upcoming in the channel schedule. If you enjoyed my review and commentary of this particular issue, please like the video on YouTube and share it. It really does help the channel. And if you haven't done so already, subscribe to the channel and stay tuned for more content like this.